So today, I would like to talk about introduction and definition of fatwa. First of all, background of study. The concept of fatwa plays a crucial role in the Islamic legal system, especially in today's context, which it provides an authoritative religious guidance. In Malaysia, issuing fatwa falls under the jurisdiction of each state, and it's essential to Malaysia as its functions is to address issue and act as a key reference for Muslims. However, there is often misinterpreted the concept of fatwa. Hence, it is essential to have a deeper and well-structured understanding of fatwa within the Sharia framework. Next, scope and methodology of study. This research focuses on understanding the concept of fatwa, which including the definition, the historical development, types, legal recognition, and practical examples of fatwa. Besides, this research uses a qualitative method and descriptive study on documentary analysis. The data was examined both inductively and deductively to ensure their relevance in guiding the community. Next, definition of fatwa from Islamic perspective. In Arabic, fatwa is referred to the al-fatawa, meaning legal opinion or guidance in Islamic law. It also related to the other terms, which is futya and futwa, where it refers to explanations given by a jurist on a different issues. According to the Imam Al-Qarafi, he stated that a fatwa is the conveyance of a mufti's opinion to a mustafti, who the one are seeking the guidance regarding to Allah's law, whether it is obligatory or permissible, by virtue to the shara. A fatwa is the description of the Islamic law in order to give a solution to a problem, whether it on individual or societal level. Therefore, in Malaysian legal context, generally, a fatwa is a legal opinion already issued by a qualified Islamic scholar called a mufti who has a deep knowledge and expertise in Islamic law. According to the Muhammad Daud Bakar, he defines that fatwa is a unique process in Islamic law as it always involves two parties, which is mustafti who are asking the questions and mufti who are answering the questions. In addition, by virtue to the Section 34 of Administration of Islamic Law, Federal Territories Act 1993, Act 505, stated that a fatwa that had been gazetted, it will bound to all Muslims in the Federal Territories and they are obligatory to follow the fatwa unless there is a permission from Islamic law not to follow in personal matters. It also similarly to the Section 49 of Administration of Islamic Religion Enactment, State of Selangor 2003, stated that a fatwa will be bound to the Muslims within the state of Selangor and they are also obligatory to follow the fatwa unless there is a permission from Islamic law not to follow in personal matters.
Next, I will explain about the characteristic of fatwa. A fatwa has a strong historical background. It is not a new element in Islamic law, but a practice that started during the time of Prophet Muhammad. During his life, the Prophet himself acted as the final authority to answer any religious or legal question through direct revelation. After his passing, this duty continued with the Sahaba, who were trusted to perform ijtihad when there was no clear ruling in the Quran or Sunnah. This tradition continued with the Tabi'in and Tabi'in and later developed into four major Sunni school of law, which is Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i and Hanbali. This history also shows how practice of taqlid emerged and people follow the established ijtihad of qualified scholars. Second, a fatwa is basically a religious opinion, not a court decision, but it is an official response issued by a qualified Islamic scholar or mufti to help Muslims solve problems that are not directly explained in the Quran or Sunnah. This means that a fatwa must be based on the main sources of Islamic law, supported by ijma' and qiyas. But when there is no clear text, the mufti may also use secondary methods such as maslahah or istihsan to reach a fair ruling that reflect the objective of Sharia. Next, a fatwa must be issued by qualified scholars who are known as mufti. A mufti must have deep knowledge of Islamic jurisprudence, be honest and sincere, and must be free from any political or personal interest. This is important to maintain public trust in the fatwa. As mentioned in the well-known hadith, indeed, the scholars are the inheritors of the Prophet. We show that only trustworthy scholars have the responsibility to continue guiding the ummah with proper religious ruling. Finally, one of the most unique characteristics of fatwa is its flexibility. Because fatwa are based on ijtihad, they can adapt according to change in time, place and situation. This principle makes Islamic law relevant and practical to solve new issues such as modern finance, technology or medical ethics, while still staying true to Sharia principle. For example, what was applicable in the 7th century might need adjustment today due to the different context and local custom.
Next, I'll be explaining about the types of fatwa in Malaysia. In Malaysia, fatwas can be divided into three categories, which are gazetted fatwa, non-gazetted fatwa, and personal opinion by a mufti. So the first one is the gazetted fatwa. A gazetted fatwa is an official ruling issued by a mufti or the fatwa committee after receiving the consent of the state ruler, which is sultan. It is then published in the state government gazette and recognized by courts and all relevant authorities within that state. Any decision made without adhering to the prescribed procedure or issued by an unauthorized body and not published in the Gazette is not recognized as a fatwa. Once gazetted, a fatwa is legally enforceable and becomes part of the law of the state. So, all Muslims in the state are bound to follow the fatwa. The second category of fatwa in Malaysia is non-gazetted fatwa. Non-gazetted fatwas are not gazetted or officially endorsed by the state. Non-gazetted fatwas are issued personally by a mufti, individual scholars and institutions like university lecturers and NGOs without going through the Sharia committee. These fatwas are not recognized by authority, nor do they have legal binding force on individuals, organizations or courts since they are not published in the state government gazette. And these fatwas serve only as reference or responses or just opinions to questions requiring explanations or resolutions on Islamic legal matters but not enforceable. However, these fatwas can be gazetted with the approval of the state ruler, which is Sultan, or authorization from the council in some states. Non-gazetted fatwas are still considered official due to the mufti's appointment by the state ruler, granting them the authority to make independent decisions. This fatwa may vary depending on the scholar's interpretation or school of thoughts. And the last one is mufti's personal opinion. The third category includes questions posed to a mufti but not discussed during meetings of the Sharia Advisory Committee because they are considered minor or insignificant. These questions can be answered directly by Islamic affairs officers, deputy muftis or the mufti without being brought to the committee. The mufti has the discretion to decide whether a matter needs to be discussed during a meeting or not. This category represents the mufti's individual responses, either verbal or written, to queries on religious matters. These responses are provided directly or within a specific time frame. Fatwas in this category remain the personal opinions of the mufti and serve as knowledge and reference for Islamic law or Sharia.
I'm going to explain about the recognition of fatwa in Malaysian law. So this slide shows us that fatwas play a significant role in Malaysia's Sharia legal system as authoritative references, even though churches are not strictly bound by them and can still apply their own reasoning. Issued by state mufti of fatwa communities, fatwas are officially recognized by most states and often referred to above state and national levels, as seen in cases like Muhammad Faisal vs. Suhaila. They help streamline court process, reduce costs, and may serve as conclusive evidence if gazetted. However, the lack of uniformity across states has led to calls for a more standardized fatwa system throughout the country. Next, fatwa is a state matter under Federal Constitution Schedule 9, where each state has full authority to issue, approve, and gazette its own fatwas. A fatwa only becomes legally binding after being officially gazetted by the state, and national fatwas are not binding unless adopted by individual states. While this allows flexibility to address local needs, it also causes inconsistencies between states, highlighting the need for better coordination to ensure more uniform and effective fatwas enforcement nationwide. Lastly, in short, each Malaysian state controls its own fatwa process. The state fatwa community drafts the rulings, the state legal advisor reviews it, the Islamic Religious Council endorses it, and the Sultan grants royal assent before it gazettes and becomes binding on the state's Muslim. National level fatwa from MKI carry no force until a state chooses to gazette them, and even gazette fatwa remains subject to judge's discretion when applied in Sharia court, leading to inevitable differences from one state to another.
Now, I would like to share one of the most well-known fatwas in Malaysia, which is the fatwa on smoking. This fatwa was issued in 1995 by the National Fatwa Council, and it declared that smoking is haram, meaning it's forbidden in Islam. The reason is simple. Why? Because smoking causes serious harm to our health. There were already many medical and scientific studies at that time showing that smoking leads to diseases like lung cancer, heart problems, and many others. In Islam, one of the core principles is to protect life, or what we call as hifz an-nafs, in the concept of maqasid ash-sharia. So, if something clearly harms us, Islam teaches us to avoid it. What's interesting about this fatwa is that it wasn't based only on religious texts. The scholars also consulted doctors, health experts, and scientific research, so it combined both Islamic knowledge and modern evidence. Even though fatwas in Malaysia are not automatically considered law, they still carry a lot of influence because many Muslims nowadays respected the fatwa and started becoming more aware of the dangers of smoking. Some even quit smoking because of it. The government also supported this fatwa by using it in anti-smoking campaigns like in schools and mosques to raise awareness. Not only that, some states in Malaysia took further action. States like Selangor, Penang and also Kelantan decided to gazette the fatwa, which means they made it officially enforceable under their Sharia law. But in other states like Negeri Sembilan here, the fatwa was accepted but it wasn't gazette, so it is not legally enforced here. Overall, this example shows that fatwas in Malaysia don't just deal with religious matter or rituals, they can also guide us in real life issues like health, safety and public well-being. To wrap it all up, the fatwa system plays a very important role in helping Muslims live according to Islamic values in the modern world. It is not just about worship or religious rules. Fatwas also give guidance on contemporary issues like health, like example I said before, ethics, economy, and even technology. In a country like Malaysia, where Islam is the religion of the Federation, but the society is multi-religious, fatwas need to be clear, relevant, and adapted to current situation. What makes a fatwa strong is not just the scholar itself who issues it, but also the quality of the reasoning, the evidence used, and whether people can relate it to in their daily life or not. The fatwa on smoking is a very good example. It showed that fatwas can be based on both Islamic laws and modern science, and that they can have a positive impact on public health and behavior. So, we can say that fatwas are not static, they are dynamic, flexible, and they can evolve with time, as long as they stay true to Islamic values and are grounded in solid knowledge. Moving forward, it is important to keep educating the public, improving how fatwas are managed, and encouraging scholars to engage with new challenges. This way, fatwas will continue to serve as a relevant and helpful guide for Muslims living in today's fast-changing world.